What's up, everyone? Welcome to my corner of the internet. I'm your host, Ryan Kramer, and this is Crossover Commerce, presented by Ping Pong Payments, the leading global payments provider helping sellers keep more of their hard-earned money. What's up, everyone? I'm your host, Ryan Kramer, and welcome to episode 60 of Crossover Commerce presented by Ping Pong Payments. Ping Pong provides marketplace sellers and entrepreneurs global solutions for controlling their domestic and international funds. An account with Ping Pong enables companies to significantly reduce their cost when receiving or making international payments, all in one platform that helps increase operational efficiencies, saves time, and allows sellers to manage their business profits in one single source. Go ahead for more information. Check out the link in the description. On the social media, if you're watching this on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, welcome. We're glad to have you on another episode of Crossover Commerce. Or if you happen to download this at a later time, thanks for listening on either Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, wherever you truly desire to download your podcast. We're probably there. Just search Crossover Commerce, and that's where you will find us in all of our episodes, all leading up to episodes, which I'm really excited. It's been quick to get to 60. We said 30 last year, so we've already doubled our output from 2020. It's been crazy, just giving people information and insights into the Amazon world. Today's no exception. I'm really excited. But before we get introduce our guest, go ahead and do me a favor, like and share this episode on social media, share it to your community, and make sure that if you do want more information about Crossover Commerce, or if you want to be notified when we go live, we go live about 4 to 5 times a week. This week is kind of a crazy exception. I'm going live 6 times a week. Tomorrow is a 2-for-1 special when we live twice, but we'll recap that at the end of the episode. But go ahead and follow us on social media, on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. That's where we share all of the content that's coming up for that week. So you can tune in live, or you can be team rewatch and watch it at a later time, because we know you're all busy people. So thanks for tuning in. But go ahead and submit your comments below. We'll see those in real time. If you have a question for our guest or myself, or just want to say hi, go ahead and leave that message below. And then also, if you watch this at a different time or download it at a different time, feel free to leave those comments and those respective podcast locations as well. We'll make sure we look at those and we value your feedback. So again, going into our guest today, super excited because he's a serial entrepreneur, EXITpreneur, advisor, and partner with Quiet Light Brokerage, one of the top online business brokerage advisory firms in the world. And he's actually helped specifically built and bought and sold over 6 online companies of his own, and helped thousands of online entrepreneurs achieve their goals as a certified mergers and acquisitions professional. And we'll kind of go into what that means in terms of technical terms and why that's important to know when you're working with Amazon brokers or online brokers. But most people start online businesses for their freedom, autonomy, and money that comes with entrepreneurship. But what our guest is here today is to kind of reverse engineer the path to exiting, because it's really been this big wave in 2020, 2021. There's so many aggregators in the space. Why it's important to work with certified brokers like Quiet Light, like his team, and other professionals in the space, and why going into it by yourself isn't always the best option for you. So him and his team can actually help shift your mindset from entrepreneur to EXITpreneur. And after all, the majority of your money and you'll be making from your business comes on the day you sell your most valuable asset. That's your business. So without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and bring in my guest, Joe Valley of Quiet Light Brokerage. Joe, what's going on today, sir?
Hey, Ryan. Good to be here, man. Good to be here. Just to be clear, look, people are going to do what they're going to do. They're going to choose to sell direct, and I'm happy to share all the little secrets about how to negotiate with aggregators right here today if you want.
That's right.
This is
all the inside secrets, so that's why we had you on the show. You're the guy to go to when it comes to this.
Yeah. I'm here to help with all that versus just talk about what we do at Quiet Light. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's why we brought you on. So if you're watching in, Scott, thanks for joining us on YouTube. If you're watching us on LinkedIn, I'm on share on my phone just because not all those comments come through all the time, but we want to make sure that you guys are watching and listening. We'll see those on our screen, and we'll give you guys a shout out if you have specific questions about your business. Obviously, more information, those are in our show notes, so you can go ahead and check out Quiet Light's website and all of the how to get in touch with Joe. But we're here to talk about Joe and his background. So yeah, Joe, we've been connected a couple times. I've been on your podcast. Maybe tell me a little bit about what makes you you, and kind of like on the personal side, and how did you get to this path at Quiet Light?
Sure. So I mean, I've been self-employed since 1997, right? I get a little gray on my chin there. You'll get some soon, right? I promise.
I'm working on it. It'll be gone up top and gray on the bottom.
It happens quickly. I launched my first e-commerce business. I guess I spent $50 on a website in 1998. I was running a radio direct response marketing campaign, and had to build a website for it. Eventually did a TV infomercial, then did a second product, radio, TV. Took that second product 100% online in 2005. And it was a simple little colon cleanse product, really just kind of an awful thing, but we built it out into a complete digestive wellness line. Okay. And I did that. I took it through the best of and the worst of the economy, came out the other side of it in 2010. Just tired, man. I was beat up, tired, worn out. It was an awful situation. I was telling somebody the other day, I was working 20 hours a week at my lake house with a pool out front and a beach over there, seeing my kids play with my wife and their friends. And I just needed out. I'm trying. I'm sure not going to get something here. But I was just tired, I was just tired. So in the spring of 2010, I woke up one day and I decided to sell the business. Now, I didn't know what that involved. So
that was woke up 20. That was 17 plus years, right? 2010. Okay.
Well, I've been doing 100% online 5 years, right? Back when Google pay-per-click was 35 cents a keyword for my main keyword. It was $5 by the time I sold. Right. But I didn't prepare. I didn't plan. I didn't know what to do. I just started reaching out to the few online business brokers there were at the time. 2 out of the 3 felt like they were just trying to reach through the phone to get their hooks into me for a commission. It was awful. Hated it. The third one asked me some legitimate, real questions, looked at my financials and said, you know what? Things are getting better. If you wait another 6 months, you're going to make a whole lot more money. And I thought, who the hell are you to tell me to go away, right? Basically, he's saying go away. And that's what I did. And that was Mark Doust, the founder of Quiet Light and now my business partner. So it worked out. I listed in November of 2010 and October of 2010, early October, and we closed in November. It was a fairly quick transaction, under LOI in 3 weeks, closed in 30 days. And then I kicked around for a good 15 months or so and joined the Quiet Light team in April 2012. Since then, I've personally closed about 100 million in total transactions through the team that we've got, close to $500 million. And I tried to do the math the other day, just ballparking how many entrepreneurs I've talked to over the years. It's been 9 years now. And I figure conservatively, it's at least 5,000 one-on-one conversations. I think it's probably closer to 8,000 overall. But 5,000 one-on-one conversations about their businesses. And so, at one point I said, enough is enough. I'm tired of repeating myself. So I wrote a book. The book's coming out in May. Don't ever write a book, people. It's not fun. But the book will be out in May, but I can talk about everything else that goes into that's in the book, including how to negotiate with aggregators, how to calculate stuff, success stories, failures, what people did right, what they did wrong. It's all in there. Hopefully it won't make people's eyes bleed. It's going to be kind of the ultimate reference guide where they can go back and look at it time and time again.
Is this going to be a print version, or are you just doing this all ebook, or what's kind of the specifics behind it?
It's going to be available in all sorts of formats. Can't do the audio because things are so delayed because of the pandemic. So that probably won't come out until late summer, early fall. But it'll be, hardcover, paperback, ebook if people want it that way, whatever works.
Nice. What's the name of it?
It's the EXITpreneur's playbook, and it's how to reverse engineer your pathway to an exit, maximize your dollars. And no, that's not the subtitle. I just sort of stumbled my way through it, but it's everything I want to talk with you about today. This isn't about Quiet Light, isn't book sales. It's about anything you want to talk about in terms of what's going on in the marketplace, what people should do if they're negotiating on their own, because all these aggregators are reaching out, right? I just got an email $1 million this morning. David Newell on the team commented that the person, he just sold a business for somebody, and prior to listing with Quiet Light, they had gotten 6 unsolicited emails from 6 different aggregators in 6 months, and ended up listing with David and getting a very nice exit. But we give it all away. So start poking around with questions. I'm happy to help.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, and that's important to know, like your background. That's how we paint the picture of your perspective, because you did it, you fumbled your way through. You have that insight of what it looks like to exit a business, but also you have that expertise in the field, because it's a buzzword right now, right? Everyone says aggregators or roll-up companies. I don't know why, like if one's a negative connotation or one's a positive connotation. I never know which one to use personally. So when you talk about this, I think the number is 100. There's 100 of businesses like this, investments or just companies they're acquiring to either keep in house or sell off to another entity, if you will. Is that the number that you guys are hearing, or is that the number that's legitimate? Like what's the number out there? Because that means there's 100 different options.
Yeah.
If you're a brand,
There's really
it's more
not,
than that.
because some of those are just starting. They haven't gotten their funding yet, or they're
Right.
very specific. They only want, auto parts or nutritional supplements or pet supplies, things of that nature. So you really got to narrow it down quite a bit. There's others like Boosted and Branded, Perch, Thras, they'll buy anything for the most part. Some of them still will stay away from electronics and clothing, things of that nature. But there's really not 100 good ones, right? I mean, there could be 100 buyers, but you don't want to deal with 100 buyers, especially if they don't have any money. But there's a lot. And for the foreseeable future, until one of them implodes massively, I think there's going to be a lot of money in the space, and it's good for FBA business owners because it's going to create even more competition and drive up multiples if they do it right.
Yeah, I was going to say, so when you're taking this, why did this become a high commodity now? Why now? Why 2020, 2021, you're seeing all these businesses exist or, explode onto the scene?
Well, it started actually long before 2020. Probably 4 or 5 years ago, I had a conversation with RJ from 101 Commerce, and he called me and he said, "This is the plan. We're going to buy 24 FBA businesses in 24 months. I'm sorry, 101 FBA businesses in 24 months."
Hence the name, right?
Hence the name 101. I said, "You're crazy. It's not going to happen." And they ended up buying 13. The whole model didn't quite work out for various reasons. But Carlos and Josh at Thras did it right. Ken did it right. They put together the right funding. They're all brilliant, and they've changed it. And they got in the news, right? So when they initially got their huge funding round, public huge funding round that was in the news back in
July, I want to say June.
I want to say April, right? It was around the pandemic time. We had sold them about 20% of their transactions at that time, and it still hovers. If you believe the numbers, they say they bought 90, and we've probably sold them about 20 to 23% of those. It shifts and varies, and that's okay. We're happy to work with them, but as long as they're paying a good value for the business, and it's harder for them now, right? They kind of have to go upstream in value and overseas to really find new places and new territories, because anytime that there's a decent FBA business that we list, there's going to be 6, 7, even Chuck had 13 offers on his last pet supply business. So there's much more competition. It's driving up the value. You got to get them competing against each other, though. That's the key, right? It's not just Mr. Wonderful in the Shark Tank. There's total of 5 people, right? There should be 50 to make it really competitive. That's what we want to do to get people to maximum value.
So let's take the Shark Tank scenario. Obviously, they would rather want to deal with you one-on-one more often than not, I would assume, because you are the entrepreneur. No one else is competing against them. You can put the offer on the table. You can spin it your way as an aggregator. You come in as like that handholder through the process, like go from 1, 2, 3, 4, and like say, okay, like what are these assets? If you guys are that handholder along the way, what value are you bringing to people? Is it that connection? Is it that like, why is it important to work with like a broker or like a certified professional like you?
You call us whatever you want. It's fine.
I don't know what the negative connotation is, so I tiptoe around a lot of different phrases.
I've been called lots of things in my life. I'm not going to be offended by being called a broker, because it's how we started. It's really what we are. We've grown up, and people call us M&A advisors now, and that's fine too. I don't really care. I'm here to help more than anything else. But there's so many things that are wrong or red flags that should go off when somebody reaches out to you and says, "Hey, I want to buy your business. We're cash buyers. We can close in 30 to 45 days. Work directly with us and avoid the broker fee." The avoid the broker fee thing is the red flag there. They can close in 30 days. They can close in 45 days. But the first thing you got to do is get the numbers right. So they're going to, look at your seller account and sort of come up with their own math, or maybe look at your P&L and look at the net income and come up with their own math. But I promise you that Ken is not, Ken's a great guy. Any of the aggregators are not going to look at your P&L and go, oh, you know what? You didn't do an add back for the cash back that you get on that $300,000 that you spend every year, or the reward points that you should have converted. Oh, and also I noticed that your cost of goods went down by $2 a unit and you sell 3,000 of those every month. Let's do an add back for $6,000 for the prior months, for each month for the prior months. They're not going to do that. I promise you. Right. There's that, and there's probably 20 other things that need to be assessed and put into a proper calculation of seller's discretionary earnings. That's the first thing. And flipping it from cash to accrual. Most people in the audience probably doing cash. They're not doing accrual. It's not the right way to do it. The aggregators are not only going to offer you a lower multiple, they're going to give you a kind of a iffy deal structure. They're getting a lot of instant equity, especially if they're buying it and it's cash. Some of them are very good people and will flip it to accrual and try to do the right thing, but they're still not going to do the add back schedules. There's so much built in there that it's worth it. I guarantee you we earn our fee. That's just the beginning though. So in that scenario where David, had a client that kept getting solicitations and talked to these folks, and David said, if you want to work with them directly, I totally get it. I understand. Give it a shot. And he decided to work with David, and they wound up with 6 offers. And 3 of them from the aggregators, 3 of the others didn't even make the offers, even though they were saying they were going to. 6 offers, and well over asking price with a much better deal structure. No working capital peg, mostly cash, a little bit of the stability payment. And you got to get those details right there, to the point where literally hundreds of thousands of dollars more above and beyond the expense of the broker fee. And in fact, actually, there was one final phone call that David had to have with one of the buyers, the buyer that got chosen. It was like a 20-minute phone call, and David got him to come up $100,000.
Wow.
And that's,
just a 20-minute conversation.
Just a 20-minute conversation, because he knew he wanted the business. And David said, look, there's a lot of competition here. You're going to have to come up to whatever you think you can. And David doesn't tell them, he can't give them details, but they came up $100,000 in 20 minutes. I think that covers the broker fee and then some, right? It's worth it. This is a very, very emotional process. I don't care how many times you've done this. When you are a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks away from a couple $100,000, $500,000, $1 million, $5 million, $10 million, you're going to be emotional, and you're going to need that support on your side. Not only do we get the numbers right and help you with negotiations and deal structure and all this stuff too, but the secret big part of what we do is actually help people manage their expectations and their emotions. And it's the emotions that will kill you financially at the end, because things always fall off the rails, and it's our job to put them back on track.
You guys need to have a certified emotional therapy person on staff, just to walk you through the last 5% of the ways. Say, hey man, it's going to be okay, and walk them through and make sure that they get to the signing table. So that might be a new job that you guys need to hire for.
I'm called I'm not an emotional support dog, but I'm an emotional support therapist.
Some certain words that we won't utter on air. But here, so you mentioned reverse engineering your path, because people don't know how to get there. It's almost like the path is never clear for a lot of people. I feel like it's not laid out appropriately in either the education or whatnot. And that's no one's fault. It's just a very scary way to know, hey, in 2 years, if I'm selling this correct, or I'm doing all the right things, I need to make sure I have all these things along the way checked off, so that when I do eventually exit my business or my brand, or this, this thing that I've built, my greatest asset that I've built up as an entrepreneur, I need to make sure that I did it step by step the right way. So when you're reverse engineering that, how are you telling people this is what you do, this is what expectation is, but to get there, this is how you start and work your way backwards.
Yeah, it's really not that complicated. It starts with a goal, right? And so if I was having a conversation with you, I would want to get a gauge for how much you want to sell your business for.
Mm-hmm.
And you might say, well, I want to sell it for a 4-time multiple. And I'd be like, okay, well, that, multiples don't get deposited to your bank account, dollars do. Let's talk about your real exit. What are you really shooting for? You want $1 million, you want 5, you want 10. So I had a call with somebody last week. He's like, I would like $12 million. I'm like, okay, let's see how close we are to that and reverse engineer a path to it. So we talked in very broad terms on an initial phone call about his growth, his numbers, his structure, where he's at today, ballpark, seller's discretionary earnings, because you can't actually get to it on a single phone call. And we figured out that, based upon the growth, based upon the numbers, and, in another 3 months, he can hit that $12 million exit. The problem is his business is very young and the growth is off the charts. So we figured out a way, basically for his $12 million exit, if he's willing to take a certain amount in cash, a certain amount in an earnout, and he wants to stay on board, he wants to roll equity and all these different things, we can achieve his exit. So who's working with him now? Walker's working with him now. The other thing is, and we go through the great detail in the ad backs and strengths and weaknesses of the business, what buyers want, what they fear, and all these different things in the whole process. But the key thing, I think, is not just setting a goal and then figuring out how close or how far you are from it today, but understanding that your business is, in fact, probably your most valuable asset, and that you are currently on the hamster wheel spinning and just trying to keep up, and you do want to jump off someday. And getting really motivated when you understand what that potential value really is. So a couple of guys that I've known for probably 2.5, 3 years now, they came to me a couple of years ago, right? Not initially to talk about it. We were just at functions together and having dinner, beers, and this kind of thing. And they said, look, we need to understand where we're at, because it's been 4 years and we feel like the business isn't really going anywhere. And, based upon what we're hearing, we think it might be worth like $500,000. Can you help? Can you take a look? And I took a look and they were dead wrong, unfortunately, right? It was actually worth about $1 million, not $500,000. Dead wrong in the wrong way.
Yeah.
Or in a good way, right? And that happens. Right. That happens at more than more than 50% of the time that happens. People underestimate the value. Some people just, are totally off the charts, of course, in terms of what they think it's worth. But most people are not grasping the numbers properly and getting that discretionary earnings right. But these guys, instantly were like, holy crap, seriously? And it wasn't, holy crap, seriously, let's sell. It's, wow, based upon where we're going, where do you think we'll be in a year? Where do you think we'll be in 2? And so we reconnected again a couple of months ago, actually a month ago. And they're on track now to do about 1.8 million in discretionary earnings in 2021.
Wow.
And staring down the window at, an 8-figure exit, right? So just a couple of years ago, $500,000, not very motivated, kind of beaten down. And it just opened their eyes to the possibilities of what's out there for them. They worked their tail off. They've put their livelihood into this. They've risked everything. They spent too much time at work and not enough with their families. And they were beaten down. Now they got that excitement, that motivation, and a path towards that exit. Buttoning up certain aspects of the business. It's a very high recurring revenue aspect of the business, really dialing that in, making sure the growth is there, making sure there's new products that are going to grow for a new owner to take over and things of that nature. We've talked about it all. They're fine tuning their cost of goods sold and all that good stuff. And they literally will have a north of $10 million exit in early 22. If that's when they decide to exit. I like to say eventual exit instead of, exiting. When you're going to exit, when you eventually exit, because it's up to you. We're here to help whenever.
Yeah. So is it in your opinion that multiples are just going to keep climbing in terms of that? Because a lot of people, I've heard it both ways, like, hey, now's the time to buy, now's the time to sell or exit your business, because, you don't know if anything will continue to potentially go down, which is true with anything, right? That's a glass half full, glass half empty kind of mentality.
Yeah.
What facts or what trajectories are you guys seeing? Is it going to continue to go up?
Let me just say that I heard that same thing in 2010 because Obama was going into office and capital gains taxes are going to go up, and I needed to sell before 2011. And maybe they were right. They were right a little bit, and they're probably right again if you said that now. But as far as are multiples going up? Yes, there's no doubt they're going up. Chuck just listed a small one. It's a pet business. 200,000 in discretionary, went out at 3.5, which is generally kind of strong for a business that small. Ended up around the 5.8 range, which is the exception rather than the rule. It was perfect in a dozen different ways. David's business that I just mentioned that, the aggregators were trying to buy, one of them ended up buying it, but he paid all cash, didn't have a working capital peg, and paid way over what they advertised for a multiple. And again, stroked an extra $100,000 at the end in a 20-minute phone conversation. There was a time that I used to list FBA businesses at a 2.74 multiple. So it would round down to a 2.7 because anything above that, nobody's going to touch it. It's way too much. So much risk in FBA. I don't want to do it. And now, with people with hundreds of millions of dollars of buying them up, the multiples are pushing up. There's going to be a breaking point, right? They can't just go spend a 10-time multiple because their portfolio's only got, the instant equity for them is that they buy it at 3 and it becomes worth 10. Now, if they buy it at 4 and it's worth 10 instantly, they're still going to get a 2.5-time return on their investment, along with, of course, the growth because of, the different avenues of generating revenue that they can do, not running out of inventory, spending a lot more money on advertising, things of that nature. But the multiples will push up, and it does vary by size, of course, right? In some part of the book, I probably need to revise it already because we talk about multiples by size, right? And fortunately, I think I gave a pretty broad range for different businesses, but it's sub 100, sub 500, sub million, north of $1 million, because those are kind of breaking points, along with other factors. But the larger the business is, the more diverse it is, the less risk it is, the more transferable. That is just going to have a higher multiple normally than something that is 200,000, like the one I just mentioned that Chuck had. A 5.8 is pretty unheard of. Don't expect it, people. If you go to list your business, it'll be listed at the right price. That's the key thing. We'll list it at the right price, and when you list it right, you will wind up with multiple offers, and hopefully it will go for at or over asking price. But that's only part of the equation. The other half is the right.
What's a rule of thumb? What's a rule of thumb that people can go off of? Like generally, average would be what, a 2-time multiple of what you're, bringing in.
Yeah. Go ahead. We can get deep into the weeds on that, but first you got to say multiple of what. None of it matters if you get the numbers wrong. Right. None of it matters. And that's the water cooler talk that none of us are around anymore. But, I got a 3-time multiple. I got a 4-time multiple. I had somebody as a guest on our podcast that sold through a competitor. And he's just a nice guy. So I had him on and we talked about his exit. And at the end, when we were not recording anymore, he told me what kind of multiple it was. And I said, okay, let's break that down in terms of, what the real multiple was, because it's a multiple of discretionary earnings plus inventory. For everybody out there that does this, except for website closers, they include the inventory into the multiple. It has an effect of increasing the multiple when you look at it online. So their multiples might look higher. It's not a negative thing that they're trying to do. They're not being tricky or anything like that. It's just that one of their founders came from a different world where they do that. But it's a multiple of sellers' discretionary earnings plus good sellable inventory on hand at the time of closing. For the most part.
So I want to break that phrase down a little bit, because I've had a couple of people that have mentioned cost of goods is just business, cost of doing business, or not cost of doing business. It's not a part of the multiple. It's almost like a separate. It is
separate. You get paid back for your inventory. See, this is the trick.
That's the question I'm trying to help understand. Is like when people look at it and put it into their offer versus not. Why are they looking at that as part of their multiple or not part of their multiple? Because that's where a lot of people get questions. Yeah.
What website? Let's say that I was listing something at a 3-time multiple, and discretionary earnings was $1 million. So it would be $3 million plus $500,000 in inventory. 3.5 when you add it all together, right? Website closers would list it at 3.5 million. Okay, so that inventory is already included in the purchase price.
And you said website closers. What is that for like simplistic reasons? What do you mean by that?
Well, that's
you're talking about like a Thrasio, or you're talking about like, or are you talking about?
I'm sorry, folks. Website closers, Quiet Light Brokerage, FE International,
Gotcha. Yeah.
Empire Flippers. We're all competitors in the same space.
Right. Sorry, I just want to make that clear. Like, this is what website closers are. No, you're good.
they're folks in the space. And so their multiple look like 3.5. So the challenge that I have with that is that in this 30 minutes and 5 seconds that we've been talking, if I own an FBA business, the value of my multiple has changed. The value, of my inventory has changed. So it's always a moving number. So we always go with a good sellable inventory on hand and paid for, or paid for and on a boat on the way at closing. So you get paid back for your inventory and you get a multiple of your discretionary earnings. Critical difference. And if you get that calculation wrong, saying multiple of, a 3-time multiple, it doesn't do you any good whatsoever. So to answer your question, what's a ballpark multiple that people can go with? I think it's safe to say that your business is probably worth somewhere in the 2 to 4-time multiple range. That's not very helpful, right?
Well, no, that makes sense. Like, just the kind of like, people are, I say unrealistic. It depends, obviously, what business you're in, how well you're doing. Sure. And then like, obviously, if you're selling internationally, I mean, we can get really into the weeds, but we did have a couple questions. Maybe we can knock out real quick. Joe from Francois from LinkedIn, again, friend of the show. He actually works for Novaland, but this is like a shipping logistics company. So this is up his alley. How do buyers assess supply chains and suppliers? Have you ever seen a buyer retract an offer after auditing their supply chain? That's a great question. It's a
great question. The answer is no, Francois, simply because we like to get ugly fast. There's not going to be any surprises when somebody looks at a Quiet Light listing. We're going to ask every question we think a buyer is going to want to ask and need to know, and it's going to be in writing, and our client's going to answer it in writing. We don't rush to letter of intent, even though I think in 2020, the average time from listing to LOI was something like 42 days. We don't rush. We don't necessarily want the first offer. We want the best one. And the best one is the one that is not trying to lock it up in letter of intent just so nobody else gets to look at it. They truly want to buy the business. They've digested the SIM. They've had a call with me or a member of the team, the listing advisor, and then they've had at least one buyer seller conference call with the owner of the business. Then and only then can they make an offer. Believe it or not, it's crazy, but we make them talk to the owner of the business because it's got to be the right connection, the right people. I've seen people choose a buyer because they liked them more and they were going to take care of their employees over somebody that was going to pay $230,000 more in cash. $2.3 million listing, SBA deal. The guy took the SBA deal with 90% down, so a $230,000 note, over the all-cash buyer that could close in 30 days because he just liked the other guy more, trusted him more, believed he was going to get through to closing, and he was going to take care of his staff. So simple answer, no, because we do like to get ugly fast and we put it all out there. There's other reasons. The most common reason a deal will fall apart is simply because sales fall off a cliff. It's not often that happens, but that would be the primary reason.
What's an example of that? Can you tell us anything specific for that reason?
Yeah. So I had a listing. It happened a couple of years ago. They were in the EDM space. All right. I didn't know what that was. You know what it is?
Come on, I don't know. Educate me.
Electric dance music.
I was going to say, yeah, it's more like technico or electric music. Yeah.
Yeah. Look at us. Big concerts, and they're supplying, bandanas and things of this nature, that actually people wear as masks now. They're too thin and don't work. But, they were in that business. They were in that business, and both owners had full-time jobs. They were not getting along anymore, and they just wanted to sell. And they waited too long. They waited to the point where they had already taken their eye off the ball for a couple of months. And that eye off the ball was just starting to have an impact on the business. And we got it under letter of intent. And then the next month numbers came in, and they were 50% of what they were for the same month last year. So the buyer said, look, I can't do this at this price. I'm afraid to do it at all because now I have to project out what the next 11 months are going to be like. And in order to do that, the business is only worth this. And I don't want a business that's only that size. I want something that's bigger like what you had. So I'm out. And we didn't relist the business because it was kind of unsellable until the pandemic hit, and they, their sales went through the roof in a temporary way, selling very thin masks with skeletons on them and things of that nature that, the CDC says don't use.
I was gonna say it's foreshadowing of something much greater than just going to a concert.
Yes.
That's interesting because does that mean that there is a category or a product that's by definition unsellable, or is every brand or category could potentially be sellable?
Yeah, no, listen, Jason was my advisor back in 2010. He was amazing. He's still amazing. He has the ability to cut through the bull and tell you like it is without offending you. And that is a skill that Mark and I talk about. We just don't have. Right? It's just pretty amazing. We'll read his email sometime. We go, can you believe he said that? And they love him for it. It's incredible. But Jason will say, I've heard him say it, 100 times, that, every business is sellable. It's just got to be listed at the right value for buyers. Right. He's been the fire sale guy when somebody's totally screwed up and he's taken on a listing and said, look, I can make this happen, but the reality is this is where you're going to be. And he does it in a way that still brings multiple buyers, and they end up, in many cases, bidding the price up a little bit. Aside from that, we don't go into the pornography space. We don't go into the gambling space. We stopped doing anything related to electronic cigarettes and that kind of space.
Vaping, yeah.
Vaping, it's just not for us. It's not that it's bad, but it's just not for us.
What about if you're in a different country? Is it only with U.S. Amazon sellers, or can you be an international seller, exit your business, and it still makes sense to work with them?
Yeah, there's two different kinds there, right? So I've worked with plenty of people in all sorts of parts of the world that have been selling on the Amazon.com platform. Australia, New Zealand, I feel like I've done so many deals there. Germany, Switzerland, Mexico, Venezuela. I actually once sold a business. The guy's name was John Smith, and he was incorporated in Hong Kong, but lived in Venezuela, and his business was an Amazon.com business. I had to do a credit check on him. I just had to.
I was going to say, Joe, for compliance reasons, I have to tell you, please do a background check on this person.
We did a background check. His name was really John Smith. And it sold. It was $1 million.
What an unfortunate name. Oh my gosh. I know. That has to have red flags everywhere.
Have all of those things. But there's a situation now where there's a client that has a fairly attractive business monetarily that's he's in Spain, and it's primarily focused in Spain, and it's a PayPal account, a Spanish PayPal account. It's the transfer of that, as I understand it, is going to be your eyes are going, ping pong.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to figure out what do you mean by Spanish PayPal account?
Well, this is me reading an email before we jumped on a call. So
gotcha. You're gonna have to off camera. You're gonna be like, this is what it means. Like, this is interesting. We should take a look at this.
Essentially, 2 or 3 other brokerage firms says, nah, unsellable. It's too complex, too complicated. There's too much risk for the buyer taking that business over because the assets are not going to fully transfer, right? There's automatic payments to your subscribers on a platform in another country that doesn't transfer over. That's the general gist of it. And so that seems like it's going to be a much, much more challenge to sell than a straight up .com FBA business or an EU or Germany or something like that. Those are happening. There are buyers that are definitely buying those. The aggregators are actually helping in that area because they're more than willing to do a stock sale than many others. And there's a great advantage for an EU seller to do a stock sale versus an asset sale. If you're Canadian, same thing. We don't do the stock sales. They flip it to a stock sale, and then we just become administrators, just to be crystal clear. But it's happening. And if you're a seller anywhere else in the world, if you're not selling on .com on Amazon, you're in great shape. Not an issue whatsoever. Sometimes it's a challenge when somebody's overseas and there's a language barrier and they haven't done a good job with their financials, right? If you think about what buyers want, it's, low risk, high growth, fully transferable, and clean books. Yeah. And, if you're in the Ukraine, I love people from the Ukraine, by the way, just in case you are, but, an Eastern Bloc country, if you will, Eastern European country, and it's an American buyer, and there's a language barrier, and your books are terrible, it's going to be much harder to sell. Your multiple is going to come down. It's sellable, but it's going to come down. So to Jason's point, everything is sellable. It's just going to be sellable at the right price.
Awesome. We had a couple more questions come in. more logistics questions, which I always find fascinating. What's the worst case ever seen in logistics? I think what that means and how I interpret that would be that it either kills a business or like a deal, or it's just like the numbers are just garbage and you just say, redo your logistics. Like these are unsellable numbers.
Yeah, for sure. So some point last year, this is actually a story in the book, but I had to make up a name because I didn't want to get upset.
John Smith. Here we go. John Smith again.
This guy from Venezuela named John Smith. He came to me and he was literally about to sign an engagement letter with a competing firm and just got a funny feeling and decided not to do it. And he said, these are the numbers. This is the value I want. What do you think? I said, well, based upon everything you've talked about, yeah, it's going to work. He goes, let's just go under engagement. I'm like, it's not the way it works, but I did it anyway. And then I get his numbers and I'm going through it and we're reviewing it. We ended up doing a screen share, a Zoom call, of course. We're doing a screen share. And I'm looking at the numbers and he goes, hold on. What are those numbers in July and August? I said, well, those are straight from your P&L. He goes, what? There's no way I did $600,000 in revenue in July. I'm like, well, these are the numbers you gave me.
Yeah. Surprise.
Like, no, they're wrong. I'm like, well, we got to have the numbers right. So I made him go back to the drawing board, go through it all. He didn't want any of his employees to know. He had an employee doing the accounting. She was just out of college, doing everything the CPA said to do, and she was doing it all wrong. So instead of doing something like $4 million in discretionary earnings and having the business worth, $13 or $14 million, he was doing about $1.5 million in discretionary earnings. And the business was basically worth half of what he thought it was worth. Right back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
I'm like, we can still move forward, but this isn't even close to you. And he goes, no, I can't do that. That's not going to set me up. I can't exit now. I'm like, and I introduced him to, 4 or 5 high quality e-commerce bookkeepers that will cost half of what the unqualified bookkeeper in-house cost.
Intern, new person.
Yeah. I mean, even that kind of approach right there. So let's say, once upon a time I had an internal bookkeeper that I hired. She was just out of college and she did all my books, and it took her like 5 days to reconcile a month, which is looking back, oh, okay, she really took me, right? But, let's say if I paid her $24,000 a year on the super, super high end, you're going to pay a really high end e-commerce bookkeeper $1,000 a year. So you're saving $12,000 a year. If your business is going to sell at a multiple of 3, not only are you saving $12,000 a year, $12,000 a year, you're gaining 36 more in the sale of your business because you've decreased your cost and your overhead by that amount, and you're getting better quality books. So getting the books wrong is the number one reason that we don't list businesses, or people are not able to achieve an exit at that time because they have to go back to the drawing board and get the numbers right.
So you talk about the cost savings factor, you put that to your bottom line, and then ultimately you can say, add this with your multiple, and look, you can make $36,000 just by transferring that one resource to another. What about in terms of marketplace value? If you're a brand selling on .com, but also have it in, let's talk about like Mercado Libre, which is South America, or you're selling in Rakuten in Japan, or, all these other marketplaces around the world that are doing in different currencies as well as different valuations. How do you reconcile all those numbers into one? Is it in USD? Like what's the number one currency that you're making the numbers work?
In all those different currencies, are they using ping pong?
Well, in theory, like you would.
And
hopefully they're getting it back. Yeah, well,
they're incredibly good at what they do. And the profits
that would be smart. Exactly. That would be smart to do that. But do you know what I'm saying? Like you have all these different earnings and revenue sources from different, is a aggregator going to look at what they're making in earnings in that currency? Or is it, hey, how it lands back to USD, for example?
It's really neither, and it's not just the aggregators. So it's that risk pillar, that fear, right? What buyers want and fear. It's that's the risk, and what they want is, a safe, diverse business that's not going to fall off a cliff the day after they buy it, or a month or a year after they buy it. So if they're selling, on Amazon.com, on Shopify, and they're selling in Canada, Japan, whatever, on these other platforms as well, it's just more diverse income streams and less risk. And less risk means a higher value. right? So, you're going to see, and just ballpark, but you're going to see if for equal businesses in terms of discretionary earnings, if one's 95% Amazon and another's 50% Amazon and 50% Shopify, you're going to see, a 20% bump on the 50-50 business value just because you own the customer and there's less risk.
Gotcha.
So same would be true for those other countries and revenue channels. I just be honest with you, I don't see anything. I've been doing this for 9 years. As I said, I've talked to a few thousand people. I haven't seen anything with sizable Rocketown revenue or any other country other than maybe Germany and the UK. Yeah,
that makes sense.
Even Canada's tiny.
Yeah. Hopefully that grows over time. I think it's just like US is just too big and too far ahead of its time. And then, but as it grows, other marketplaces will continue to grow, which brings value across the world. I was just even reading an article about Southeast Asia, just looking at the GMV, the global market value of what that area represents. Southeast Asia, once it flips, they combine it all. I think it's like 4th largest in the world behind USA, Europe, and I want to say Japan, unless they were adding Japan. But in terms of total GMV, like if you add it all together, that's where this market is like budding and ready to pop. So it's just other things to kind of wait and see how like logistics works and things like that. And as it continues to grow with like mobile selling and, all these other factors that USA is already like implementing in terms of our day-to-day lives.
I think if somebody's patient and running their business with, a real goal in mind, they're going to hang on to the business longer. They're going to run it more efficiently, and they're going to grow in a manner that's going to help them achieve that goals. And in many cases, it may take them overseas. It may take them, just to their manufacturer to renegotiate cost of goods sold, because it's just going to, the multiplying effect of doing things like that, like using ping pong. We talked about it on the Quiet Light podcast, right? If you're spending $100,000 in exchange fees a year and you save 3% of that, or you reduce it, it's a multiplying effect. Not only do you have more money in your bank account, but you get that times, 3, 4, 5, depending upon the value of business at exit.
Absolutely. There's a couple more questions. Man, they're coming in hot and heavy from LinkedIn. Thanks for watching again, everyone, live on LinkedIn, again, Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. Thanks for asking your question. So Francois, again, has Amazon been a bottleneck in a lot of Amazon businesses because of COVID brought down that multiple?
It didn't bring down the multiple, actually. In an odd way, it brought it up. It's not just the aggregators. It's the fact that my father's 84 years old and used to go to, Sears and Target to go shopping, and now he shops online. He shops on Amazon. So it's gotten more people doing the things that we do, which is just order online. I want to go out to dinner. I want to have a beer with friends. I want to do all those social things, but I really don't want to go shopping for, desk furniture or whatever. So Amazon being a bottleneck has been a case in terms of, logistics, right? So I've had people that have, sent product into Amazon, and a month later, it still hasn't been processed. 3 months later, I've seen that it still hadn't hit their account and ready to sell. So there's definitely been a bottleneck in that regard, for sure.
Yeah. And then we had one more question that came in about Udan.com. This is not a website I have heard of, but it's a B2B aggregator in India. How have they started? Where are they sitting currently? Is that some company that you've been familiar with, Joe?
I'd have to look on my aggregator list. If I don't think I've had a conversation with them. It might have been Mark or Chuck. But oddly enough, I've got a list of 300 Facebook groups that are in the Amazon space.
Right.
And the largest one is in India. It's like 300,000 members of that Facebook group. So this doesn't surprise me at all. We just need to make sure that they're, calculating discretionary earnings right and negotiating the right way, the right deal structure, so they're not getting, many sleepless nights after selling to Udan.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess my couple other things that I have brought up of what are people just when they're going to business and they're working with an aggregator, I say when they're exiting their business, what are like the top things that you can add to your business to start really bringing value to your business? Like you implement X, it's absolutely going to bring your value up significantly? Is there one thing that people are just missing that you're like, I suggest that you do this, and that is going to increase a value by at least twice, or
Well, we've
1.5, or
given it.
whatever that looks like?
Yeah, it's there's so many different variations to so many different businesses that I could give one example. It's going to apply to one person listening, but not the other
Sure.
10 or 20 or 30. I mean, it's little tiny things like using ping pong, like renegotiating cost of goods sold, like testing increasing prices, right? I had sold a business that closed in December to an aggregator. After COVID hit, they were going to run out of inventory on their number one selling SKU. So they raised the price by $4. Sales didn't go down. They went up. It's lasted, right? It's stuck. So they're never going back down. So for January, February, March, and April, we took the sales by month times $4, and it ended up adding like $42,000 in the add back schedule. Math, logic, black and white, that times the multiple. And I think it added like $150,000 to the list price of the business. Those are the things that you got to do to prepare. And you can't do that if you wake up and decide to sell your business like I did in the spring of 2010. Fortunately, Mark told me to go away, and it worked.
I'm tired. Go away.
Right? We tell people to go away because it's in their best interest. Sometimes they go, oh, he doesn't want to sell my business. That's not right. We want to sell your business. We want to help you. We want to help you get maximum value for your eventual exit. If eventual for you is tomorrow, if you're ready, then we're ready too. But you want to get it right. You just want to get it. I tell you what, there are three primary things. If there's other questions, let me know. I want to answer them. But I think what they're beating around is a couple of things I want to talk about. But yeah. Oh, what else do we got?
Other questions. You talk about this, and I've heard it talking on your podcast, the ignorance discount. What does that mean, and why do people need to know?
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's an offensive term for people or not. I gotta figure that out. So
I don't think so. I think when you were talking about being blunt and to the point, this is part of it, Joe. Like, you have to get to the point. This is what ignorance discount means. So lay it out for people.
Obviously, when you don't do the math right on your own, the discretionary earnings, you're giving an ignorance discount. When you're doing cash accounting and you sell your business based off of cash and you're growing like crazy, you are absolutely giving up an ignorance discount. These things are giving instant equity to the buyers, and they absolutely love you for it. Aggregators, they do the same thing. So they'll say, avoid the broker fee, work with us. What they don't tell you is they're going to look for a working capital peg, which is a couple of months worth of inventory value. So if you've got $300,000 in inventory, they want, the average of 2 months worth of inventory gifted to them at closing. So there goes your broker fee. The other thing that you're going to be stuck with that is a big ignorance discount in a sense is that they're going to go negotiate what's called a stability payment. If you Google it, you won't find it until I write a full article on it, right? There's stability. I looked at it. I was writing in the book. I'm like, what the hell is this? They all talk. It's not there. They made it up. And basically what they're doing is protecting themselves from having your business fall off a cliff. And so they'll say, look, we're buying your business for $1 million. We're going to put $250,000 in a stability payment, which means, Ryan, you're not going to get the $250,000 for 12 months, and you'll get it as long as the revenue over the next 12 months is within 90% of the prior 12 months. The problem with that, it's multiple problems with it, first of all, but it's a seller note is what it is, right?
Yeah,
exactly. It's a seller note with a different name on it. But the problem with that is also that it's 90%. What happens if revenue is 89.99%? You lose $250,000. So if you're going to end up with that, negotiate a much smaller percentage, but at least do a sliding scale. So it's 90%, you get all of it. 85 to 90%, you get 200, so on and so forth, all the way down to zero. Right. If you got to do that aspect of it. The other thing that they look for is an earnout, and they'll call it a profit sharing program. They're really, really good marketing, but it's an earnout by any other name. So basically, I'm going to pay you a percentage of profit over the next 12 months. And that's an earnout, right? You earn it. Right. You get it as the business earns it. What they'll do sometimes, though, is they'll say, we'll give you X percentage above the total revenue. We're going to split it above the trailing 12-month revenue. We'll give that to you in 12 months. And both of them can be negotiated pretty dramatically, but the huge little nuances there, obviously the sliding scale and the stability payment, but the big one that you've got to make sure that you have in any contract, if you're going to sell directly to an aggregator, is that if they run out of inventory on any major SKU for any, more than a week, all bets are off. They owe you the full stability payment. They owe you the full profit sharing and earnout. I've seen it happen, unfortunately, where we were 91% of the way there, 3 weeks to go, and we were going to blow that number away, and my client didn't get a $300,000 payment. Fortunately, there was a subclause that we put in there that the next quarter counted, and they ended up getting the $300,000. So you got to have those clauses. And the last thing that I'd say you absolutely have to have is, if you're going to accept a stability payment, if you're going to accept any kind of an earnout masked as a profit sharing plan, you've got to have access to the seller account. View-only access is fine, but you got to be able to see it. You want to know what's going on, because the aggregators are growing like crazy. They're smart. They talked investors into giving them millions of dollars. They're really, for the most part, they're really actually really good people, and I like them a lot. They're smart, and they're very likable, right? They're very charming, and they'll charm you right out of your business, and you'll make money for it. Look, some people are very, very happy selling to them, but you've got to make sure that you have access to the reports so that you can tell the kid that has no experience, that just joined the team, that's managing the inventory for your business, he's making $50,000 a year, but you've got 300,000 riding on it. You want to make sure he's doing his job well, because you've got a lot more riding on it than they do. So always want to have report access to the seller account as well.
That's awesome stuff. Yeah. I when you were telling me those stories when I was on your podcast, that just gives me a heart attack to think about something as great as like one event that you have, like almost like a bet, like you're putting it all on black. No input on how it does. It's almost like gambling and making sure they know what they're talking about. Like you said, you put it in numbers so we can all kind of break down. If someone's making $50,000 a year, they have other accounts they have to worry about. But if they just run out of inventory for a couple days or a week or whatever that looks like, that can cost you $300,000, which is absolutely crazy in my mind.
It's not intentional. Again, these people are good people. It's not intentional. It's just they're human, and they hire humans, and humans screw up, right? Yeah. You want to have all the parts and pieces in there in black and white in simple legal language that, protect you, because you've spent your life working on this business. You risked everything. You want to make sure you're getting paid for it.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a good place to kind of like put a pin in our conversation. Francois had hopped over to Facebook. Loving the conversation, fellas. Primo content here. Well, we appreciate it. Obviously, that's what our job here is on Crossover Commerce, to bring people to kind of like pull back the curtain and say, like, listen, we're not trying to like knock these people, but you need to be educated in the fact of like, these things happen. Each business is different. You need to be educated. You don't want to get one offer, and that's your only offer from Mr. Wonderful. You want to get people. Mark, you've been throwing in there. No, I believe in you, and I believe in this product, and this is what I see your value in. And you want to have them fighting for it. So they have all these millions of dollars. They have a job to do. They want to grow your business, and they see value, but they also don't want to give you the farm too. So you got to have people that go to bat with you, and that's where you guys, I know, come in. So awesome stuff today, Joe. Is there any, like, where can people find out more information if they want to exit, or if they want to just understand more information about their business? Where can they learn more about you guys?
Quietlight.com. There's lots of resources on there, educational content, material. Then go to the Quiet Light podcast, listen to me interview guys like you. Or if they want evaluation, they want to reverse engineer a path to their own exit, they can fill out the evaluation form on quietlight.com.
Awesome. Yeah. And we put those in the show notes below. So if in the comment section, you guys have questions, go ahead and check them out on their website. Definitely worth a look, especially just having a conversation. If this is something either now, a year or two from now, to kind of reverse engineer your path to an exit. Joe, thank you so much for hopping on today. We appreciate your time. As always, good luck with all the people trying to buy a PayPal business from Spain, potentially. I'm curious about that. You have to tell me how that looks.
We'll have to talk about that off air for sure.
Yeah, I'm curious how that works even. So, but yeah, thank you so much for hopping on today. I appreciate your time.
My pleasure, man.
Awesome. Again, thanks, Joe, with Quiet Light Brokerage. Go ahead and check that out on their website, quietlight.com. Again, this is Crossover Commerce. We go live 4 to 5 times a week. Make sure that you stick around. And for tomorrow, it's a 2-for-1 day. Typically Fridays are a little bit more relaxed. You know, I put on sweatpants, I put on something a little more comfortable instead of talking with everyone else around, on these podcasts. But I am super excited to do a roundtable discussion. First on our show, it's going to be 4 amazing women entrepreneurs and service providers. They have their brands, they have businesses that are helping people crush it on Amazon. It's in partnership with the Women by Amazon, or the Women on Amazon or by Amazon event. So make sure that you stick around and check out that roundtable. It's going to be 4-in-1 basically. So it's me asking questions, picking their brain about their diverse background and expertise in the field. And then also we're going to be talking about with marketology, building your brand, and don't miss that talk as well. So spend all day Friday with us. You got nothing better to do. Obviously, you want to listen to us in the background. Just listen to us. Put on the headphones instead of being on Clubhouse or anything like that. Just listen to us. But we'll be live at 10 a.m. Eastern and then 3 p.m. Eastern with both various topics. And us going live. So 6 times we went live. We're going to be live this week. Make sure you tune in for each of those. To get notified, go ahead and follow Ping Pong Payments on social media, on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. And then also you can follow me at Ryan Kramer on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook, and Instagram. All of our information will be put there. Just lots of content that's going to be coming your way. It doesn't stop here. But again, tune in live for our live shows. You can rewatch them on YouTube. And then if you want to go ahead and download, just search Crossover Commerce on wherever you listen to your podcast. I'm Ryan Kramer for Crossover Commerce. Thank you so much for joining us today. Everyone stay safe out there, and we hope you stay successful in your Amazon business. Stay well, everyone.